Eyeing a possible gun amnesty program, churches now allowed to worship at 100% capacity, and an update on the Governor General. Good evening, everyone. I'm Leah Cooper with your JCN News for this Friday, April 8th. Attorney General Senator Ryan Pinder telling the media today that the government officials are now actively discussing the implementation of a gun amnesty program as part of a wider push to rid the streets of illegal firearms and stem the tide of violent crimes, particularly murder, in the country.
It is a proposal that has come forward to address the amount of guns that are on the streets, and that's actively being looked at both from a policy level and a legal level. No, with an amnesty, you would not penalize criminally somebody for coming in voluntarily to turn their firearm in. There's also thought, and there's discussion about whether you have a program to compensate and to pay or not. And then, but while you do all of these activities with respect to amnesties and the like of getting guns off the street, you have to solve the holes at the border.
Among the avenues being considered for the potential gun amnesty program, the AG echoes the sentiments expressed by both the Prime Minister and the Commissioner of Police yesterday that the priority right now for law enforcement and government is stopping the importation of said illegal firearms. He notes that without these border holes being filled, an amnesty or possible gun buyback program would ultimately be redundant
on where these guns are coming in, because if I could take one gun off the street and they bring in 3 guns to compensate for that, then that doesn't do us much good at all. And so it's a more holistic approach in looking at an amnesty program, but also looking at how you're going to be able to address the porous border that we are. It's a challenge. We're an archipelagic country. People come in by freight, they fly in, they charter in, they come in on their boat. So it is a challenge, and so in the context of a gun amnesty, in the context of possible gun buyback programs or anything else, we do it holistically as well as trying to plug the holes at our border.
AG Pinder also notes that before the amnesty program becomes a viable option, all stakeholders, including police, government, and the general public, must first be on board. With the month of March 2022 going on record as the bloodiest month in Bahamian history, Chief of Police Paul Roll, in addressing the press at the weekly briefing at the Office of the Prime Minister, says that the Royal Bahamas Police Force is ready and willing to do whatever it takes to combat the level of violent crimes in the capital. Commissioner Roll also told the media that a priority for him and his team right now is interdicting the importation of illegal firearms.
We have been working assiduously with our international partners to identify sources and methods and persons who have been actively engaged in the illicit purchase, in some instances, and importation of firearms into the country. We have identified that the majority of those firearms, illegal firearms, have been coming from Florida, South Florida in particular, as we try to interdict a lot of this firearm that is destined for the Bahamas. Last week in Miami, we were able to interdict a shipment of, I think, 5 firearms that were destined here.
The commissioner notes that while it is not under his purview, he feels the implementation of a gun amnesty program would be helpful in ridding the streets of much of the illegal firearms. He adds that many of the cases that are a part of the most recent spate of murders were either gang-related or a result of retaliation. A top brass police officer and a clergyman getting candid with our news team on the ongoing war on crime here in the country. Here's Laurencia Smith with that report.
Officers here in the capital do all they can to fight this ongoing war on crime. Deputy Commissioner of Police Clayton Fernando on Thursday at the scene of the country's latest homicide, once again sending a stern warning to those committing crimes throughout the country.
The only 2 things can happen. If you don't move away from the life of crime, either you will make prison or you will die. Either you make prison or you will die. Only two things can happen. And we are pleading to the individuals, especially the young men who are out there involved in the life of crime, to please stop, and stop now. Because the Bahamian people are fed up and they are supporting their police as we move to disrupt what is going on in our country today. And we will do just that.
Almost 4 months into the year, detectives have reported more than 40 homicides, with this week seeing some 6 homicides alone. Now the discussion on corporal punishment has been a long-standing national topic. The Deputy Commissioner of Police was pressed by the media on corporal punishment. Here's his brief response to it.
It should. When you look at it, it should. I agree with that. I won't say no further, nothing further to it, but I totally agree.
Meantime, outspoken clergyman Bishop Simeon Hall, who spoke with JCN News on the ongoing bloodshed here in the country, he says, quite frankly, the country is in a crisis.
To put it succinctly, we are in a crisis, and we could describe it and analyze it, but we are facing a crisis. Every time a young man is shot dead, then his generation is wiped out. Now, mind you, we did not get here overnight. I think it's going to take a multifaceted approach to bringing about solutions.
I'm Laurencia Smith for JCN News.
Thanks, Laurencia. After many concerns and allegations have been raised by the government officials in regard to the Minnis administration's National Food Distribution Task Force, Prime Minister Philip Davis asserting yet again that his administration is attempting to account for what happened with the Food Task Force, and it's not an attack.
If anyone looked at what I had to say, if anyone understood what I had to say, it was not an attack. It is an effort to understand what went on. There is a statement that suggests that the facts are as clear as day. Well, show us the facts, and we too might come to the conclusion that it is as clear as day. As I speak, as I stand here, we still don't have a full picture of what went on. I'm not criticizing the NGOs. And as I said, when I spoke about the NGOs, we will not be talking about this if the former government had done their job.
The Prime Minister asserts that it was the previous administration's job by law to account for the funds that were being spent. He also notes that he gave this warning to the Minnis administration.
I also warned them that the Transparency International and other international agencies who are concerned with this perception of corruption indicated that we have to be careful with what they call pandemic spending, because it could be used in a way that is abusive. And I pointed out to them, it was not my words, I was just quoting and alerting them to that. So if they had accounted, if they had done the accounting for the funds that were expended, we would not be having this discussion today. We are embarking on the accounting. We are finding out that there have not been information not being provided to the accountants. The accountants have brought to my attention that, look, we can't get information.
The National Food Distribution Task Force was launched during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic to assist families who were affected financially by the pandemic. It ran for over 70 weeks at a price tag of about $56 million. While you're watching JCN News, stay with us.